It has been a long day, and I was tired. I needed to rest my legs, man, so I came inside of my guild stronghold, and I took a seat and admired the table where a feast is about to transpire. So what is going on, YouTube? The Assist Man. I'm coming back at you guys with another YouTube video. And inside of this video, yes, it's another Neverwinter related video. And inside of this video, man, what I'm going to go ahead and talk about and explain is foods, potions, and elixirs, or you could just call them, I guess, consumables, and what are the best ones to use and why you should use them. You see, consumables in this game pretty much can make up a lot of extra stats and damage and deflect and defense and stuff for you. And there are a couple different ones, and you want to make sure that you're using all of them. First off, you're allowed to have about 7 consumables active at one time. But really, for the most part, it's going to be about 6. And that's if you decide to use them all. So they come down in a few different categories. The first category you have is called a potion. And these ones are just like your regular potions. And there's a couple different variations of them. Now, there's a good, a better, and a best for every single thing I'm about to talk about inside of this video. So, as far as potions go, the best potion to use is called the Superior Flask of Potency. And what the Superior Flask of Potency does is it gives you 7.5% extra crit severity, and it gives you plus 400 power, plus 400 recovery, and plus 400 critical strike. It lasts for 30 minutes, and it will persist through death. Meaning, if you die with this potion on, you don't have to go ahead and put another one on. Although this is the best potion to use, I do not use it because it costs too much money. The average price on the Xbox One for one Superior Flask of Potency is around 17 to 18,000 Astral Diamonds. That's a lot of money because they only last for a half an hour. So, for instance, if you were going to go run dungeons for 4 hours, you would have to theoretically use 8 of these. And 8 of these times about 18,000, that's almost 115 to 120,000 Astral Diamonds just on these Superior Flask of Potency potions. It's not really worth it. I'm going to show you guys how much these things cost. Here's another thing I was looking at earlier. So let's see. Let's look for a Superior Flask, and it should pop up here. You just got to scroll down a little bit. And like I said, these things are really, really, really expensive. Here you go. Right here. Superior Flask of Potencies. It seems like the cheapest ones are about over 18,000 each. And you can see it does what I just said it would do. Increases critical strike, recovery, power, and crit severity. These are very expensive. Although these are the best options, I don't use them, and I don't recommend them to you guys to use unless you have a ton of Astral Diamonds. If you're fully best in slot, and you can't basically upgrade anything else on your hero, you have rank 14s, you have unparalleled everything, you have armor kits and everything, you have tons of legendary mounts, you have all your companions at legendary, and you have nothing to do with your Astral Diamonds, then by all means, make sure you're using these. But most of us aren't in that situation. I know damn well I'm not. So then you have another option. This is the best. Like I said, we're going to go to the good, better, best. The better option to use, that's not the Superior Potion, is you can get a Major Flask. So you can get a Major Flask of Potency. And what the Major Flask of Potency will do, it's basically the exact same thing almost as the Superior Flask of Potency. But it's a little bit lower. So you still get the 7.5% critical severity for 30 minutes. But instead this time, you only get 225 added to your critical strike, your recovery, and your power instead of 400. But the big thing is, these potions do not persist through death. Which means if you pop one of these, and then you die 5 minutes later, then you're just gonna have to put on another one. Like DJ Khaled would say. The good thing about these potions, though, is that if you don't die a lot, they're still useful. And they're still so cheap. So even if you do die a lot, you're not, it's not that expensive. You could see the average cost of one of these is around, there's some, these ones here are cheap as 1,000. I'm going to go ahead and buy these ones. But they're usually around 1,200 Astro Diamonds each. So they're not that expensive. And when I am talking about these consumables, these are things you really, really only want to run in dungeons to help speed up the runs for you and your team. These are not things you're actually going to want to use and equip while you're just out there farming or, doing campaigns and stuff like that. It's a waste of money. So, say for instance, the major flask of potency is around 1,200, 1,300 Astro Diamonds on average. Not bad. But that's the better option. So the best option was the superior flask of potency. The better option was the major flask of potency. And now you have some good options. And these are the ones that I personally use and I recommend to people to use if you don't have a lot of Astro Diamonds. And these are the stat increasing potions. Sit down, man. These are the stat increasing potions. And these are the ones right here. These are some of them I used. It is the enhanced superior potion of force. What this will do, it will increase your power by 1,000 for an hour, and it will persist through death. Which means you use one of these potions, you get an extra 1,000 power for, a whole entire hour, and if you die, you don't have to repop the potion. Now, it's not only the enhanced superior potions of force. There are other ones. There are ones that give you critical strike 1,000 for an hour, 1,000 defense for an hour, 1,000 recovery for an hour, so on and so forth. I recommend to use these ones because they are cheap. They're so cheap, it's worth using. As a matter of fact, you can usually buy a stack of 99, an entire stack of 99 of these things for about 10,000 Astro Diamonds on the auction house. So they're only around 100 Astro Diamonds a piece to use. It's extremely, extremely inexpensive for pretty much anybody, and it will give you a little bit of a buff. Now, there are also different variations of these superior potions as well, and the best ones are called the Luminescent Potions. Now, the Luminescent Potions are the exact same thing. They still will last for an hour, they still will persist through death, and they will, instead of giving you 1,000 power or 1,000 of any of the stats that you choose to actually take from the potion. I'm going to go ahead and go to the auction house right now. And like I said, this is on Xbox, so your prices might be different on PC. But if we look at Luminescent Potions, let's look at this one here. Luminescent Potions of Force. These will increase your stat, instead of 1,000, by 2,500. So it's a big jump up, but at the same time, they're a lot more money. The average cost of an enhanced superior potion of force, if you went the power route for 1,000 power, 100 Astro Diamonds. The average price of a luminescent potion of force, if you went the power route, so you would be gaining an additional 1,500 power using this potion over the other one. But now you're looking at an average price of around 4,200 to 4,300 Astro Diamonds a piece. So basically, 42 to 43 times more money than the regular one for only, 2.5 times more of a stat. It's not really worth it. If you're looking for the best in-slot options, you want to use the superior flask of potency, then the major flask of potency next, then the luminescent potion, and then after that, just go ahead and just use the enhanced superior ones that I showed you. So, there are good options with these that are cheap, and there are good options that are expensive. At the end of the day, it all comes down to how much more you want to do, how much more damage, how much more defense, how much more you want, and how much more are you actually willing to spend. So that covers the potion section. Then the next section we have is the elixir section. Now you can only have one potion on at a time. You can only have one of these items on at a time. So only one potion. So you got to take your choice of the flask of potency or the stat potions. You can only have one on at a time. The next section we're going to cover is the elixir section. And these are the things that you buy in the Vault of Petey, wherever the hell you call this thing, with your little coins. And there's a couple different ones. Now, if you're a DPS class, by far the best one to use is the Wildstorm Elixir. The Wildstorm Elixir is going to get you an additional 350 critical strike, but it is going to increase your crit severity by 10% for an entire hour, and these also persist through death. So each one of these potions you can buy will last for an entire hour, and they will persist through death. And you get these things just by praying every day and getting your little ardent coins or whatever the heck these things are called. And you can buy them. Now, like I said, I just covered the Wildstorm Elixir. You got the Faux Hamish Favor Elixir. This one is really good if you need some more deflect severity, because this one will not only increase your deflection by 350, but it will also increase your deflect severity by 10%. And that's quite a lot. The other ones, I don't think they're too good. This one will give you a little bit more recovery. You have a chance to gain 5% of your action points over 20 seconds. There's all kinds of different ones in here. There's 5 different ones. You got to pick the one that you think is going to be vital for your build. So now, you can use a potion. You could use an elixir. The next thing that you can use would be an event food. Now, event foods are very, very good to use. Now, I'm going to cover this video because I am a DPS character. I play the Trickster Rogue. I'm going to cover this video from the insight of me telling you what to use for DPS. I'm sure other classes would want to use defense, deflect, and maybe power if you're a power sharing class or a cleric. But for this purpose, I'm going to go ahead and cover the ones that I would use for a DPS. Now, there's all kinds of different ones, and they're going to do the same things, just give you different stats. So if you look in my inventory right here, there's 2 different ones that I personally use. You have the Watermelon Sorbet. It says, cool watermelon sorbet grants you 10% more power and recovery. And it says it increases so-and-so, my power by so much, my recovery by so much. I don't know why, but for some reason, the tooltip on the power is wrong. Because it says it gives you 10% more power and recovery. It shows that it should increase my power by 2687. The problem is if you look at my character sheet right now, my power is at 41,400. So I should go up to 43,000 or 44,000. What was it saying increase by? 2687. So I should go up to like 44,087. But the problem is I'm going to use one. See, I just used one. Now I should be at 4487, but now for some reason I'm at 45,180. So although it increases it by 10%, the tooltip is wrong. So the number it shows you on the tooltip is not actually 10%. So just by using that potion, I gained about an additional 4,200 power. I'm sorry, not that potion, that food. Now there's 2 of them to use for DPS. These are the ones I use. I use the Watermelon Sorbet, and I also use the Squash Soup. The Squash Soup will grant you an additional 3% critical hit chance, as well as an additional 5% critical severity, which is really, really good if you have 100% crit chance. You're going to get a little bit of extra damage with that 5% extra crit severity. So although there are different event foods to use, if you're a DPS, you're going to want to use one of these 2. Now, there are other ones that will grant you some more recovery, defense, stuff like that. You just got to look in the auction house, see which ones you want to use. Now, there is also another thing you can use as far as a consumable goes, and it's these things right here, the Invocation Blessings. And these are pretty simple. You obtain these by praying at the campfires and the altars every single day throughout the course of your journeys through the game. When you use an Invocation Blessing, you will get basically a blessing of the god. And what that will do is it will give you one of 4 different blessings. There is a critical strike and deflect one. It's a combo, so it gives you both. There's an armor pen lifesteal one, and then there's a power defense one, and then a recovery regen one. Although they're not that good, they do give you plus 427 stats for each one. So for instance, if I was to go ahead and use this, I'm going to use it right now. If I was to go ahead and get the power defense one, it would give me an additional 427 power and 427 defense. And you can see in the tooltip, the one I got was the Gift of Vitality, which just granted me 427 additional recovery and 427 additional regeneration. So that's another thing you can use. Now, there is also another thing you can use in the consumable section. It's a reusable item. And basically, you have 3 choices there. The good choice is the Timora's Lucky Coin. That when you use that thing, it's going to go ahead and give you a random stat that's going to buff that stat for 10 minutes, and it's going to give you 371 of that stat. The next thing, the better option, is the Adorable Pocket Pet. And basically, when you use that, you have a chance to either get 5% extra critical severity, 250 action point gain, 250 regen, or your defense threat gained by 5%. This is the better option only if you hit the crit severity. The best option is the Chain of Scales. Now, the Chain of Scales is something that you get by doing the Fane of the Night Serpent quest after you have completed the Lost City of Omu in Mod 13. It drops from the last boss and it drops as purple. Then you have to upgrade it. It drops as green. Then you have to upgrade it. You go from green to blue to purple, which is epic. Then you could take it to legendary, and then you could take it to mythic. Now, if you see on the bottom down D-pad of my potion tray, I have it equipped. I have the mythic one. So when you hit that, you can get basically a buff that's going to last for 30 minutes. And you could redo this every 10 minutes if you like, if you didn't like the buff you received. The best buff to get from the Mythic Chain of Scales is the critical hit severity, will give you an additional critical severity. You can also get lifesteal severity, power, it increases your power by like 2100. You can get defense, like right now I got defense, I believe. Yeah, oh no, I'm sorry, I got deflect severity. So there's all kinds of different ones that you can get with the Chain of Scales. Now, if you're asking me how to get the Chain of Scales to Mythic, there are videos out on YouTube by other YouTubers. I believe Husa57 has one, so I would go check that out. I'm not going to go into a long, story of how to obtain it, but you basically have to obtain scales by killing different things in Mod 13. But go check out Husa57's video. He has a video on it. Now, the next thing that you guys can use is a thing called the Potion of Power. And what a Potion of Power does is it instantly regenerates and refills your action points by 25%. This is good if you want to go ahead and try to get your action points back right quick to hit a daily. But it's not too often people are going to be utilizing these because they should have enough action point gain. And at the same time, when you're running with a group that's buffing you, you should have way more action point gain and recovery at the same time. So you can use one of these if you like, but it pretty much, you consume it right on use. It'll give you 25% more action points, but they're not cheap at the same time. You could look at the average going rate of these is about 22 to 2300 Astral Diamonds each just for like a little 1 second buff. It's good, and it's not good. And then that is it. There is one other thing that you can possibly use, and it's called a Scroll of Fate, and you can only get them from the Winter Festival. And what they're going to do is they're going to give you a stat increase of a random thing by 490. It's not that much, and you can only get them from the Winter Festival, so not really something you want to be using. All in all, you can basically use 7 different consumables, but I most of the time use 4. And the last one that I did not cover yet is one of the most important ones, but at the same time, I don't use it. So what you want to do is you want to go to your guild stronghold like I'm in now, and you want to go over here to your barmaid, and she's the one that sells food for guild marks. Now, they come in different variations. You can get like a small one, a medium, a large, an epic, and then like a legendary variation. For the sake of this video, let's just look at the top ones, the ones that cost 350 guild marks. Each one of these will grant you 5,000 additional maximum hit points, and it will give you another additional stat for 1,000. Now, for instance, the honeyed bread will give you 5,000 hit points, 1,000 defense. The prime rib will give you 5,000 hit points, 1,000 power. The boila basi, whatever the hell this is called. Oh, that's not it. Sorry. Seared tuna will give you 1,000 critical strike, 5,000 hit points. The ratatouille will give you 1,000 recovery, 5,000 hit points. The sambocade will give you 5,000 hit points, 1,000 movement. The chocolate down here will give you 1,000 regen, 5,000 movement. And then the last one, the Zurich, will give you 5,000 hit points, 2 additional Everfrost damage. That is it. Now, are these things good to use? Absolutely. But they're expensive. You only probably want to be using the best ones to get the best stats. At 350 guild marks each, that's a ton. I mean, you can only use one of these things like every hour. So if you're running, like I said, dungeons for 4 hours, you're going to need to buy 8 of these. That's going to cost you like 2,700 guild marks. That's a lot of guild marks. Now, if you're constantly donating stuff to your stronghold, to your alliance, to your guild, and you have a lot of guild marks at all times, by all means, buy these if you don't use your guild marks on anything else. But I also think that there is better options for your guild marks as buying gear or buying maps to try to get masterwork resources to sell on the auction house, so on and so forth. So, at the end of the day, there are 7 things that you can use. You can use a potion, you can use an elixir, you can use a stronghold food, you can use an event food, an invocation blessing, a reusable item like the Timora's Lucky Coin or the Mythic Chain of Scales. And then you could possibly use that Winter's Festival Scroll of Fate. Now, you're not going to use that, so let's say 6. If you want to use everything else, it's going to be 6. Me personally, what I use when I go into dungeons, I like to use them, but I try to use the most affordable option since I play the game a lot. So obviously, I'm always using my Chain of Scales. That's 1. I also, when I go in to a dungeon, I always use an Invocation Blessing, which I just did. That's 2. Also, when I go into the dungeon, I also use a Wildstorm Elixir. So that's 3 consumables. Then I also use an Enhanced Superior Potion of Force or a different potion. So that's 4 consumables. And then I also use either a Watermelon Sorbet or a Squash Soup. So that's 5. I'll switch these Watermelon Sorbets and Squash Soups out, you know, depending on different groups I run with, or just depending on what I feel like using, because I have a lot of each. So, me personally, I use 5 consumables at all times. I use the Invocation Blessing, I use the Wildstorm Elixir, I use the Superior Potion of Force Enhanced version, and I use either the Watermelon Sorbet or the Squash Soup, and then I use my Mythic Chain of Scales. And that is why I have all of these things at the very, very top. Because every time I start a dungeon, I just go to my inventory, I start at the top, I hit A on that, A on that, A on that, A on that, or this. Use all those, get out of here, hit down on my D-pad, hit my Mythic Chain of Scales, boom. Now, by utilizing all these foods together, you can gain a lot of extra damage, a lot of extra critical strike, a lot of extra recovery, defense, so forth and so on. You should definitely be using these on any endgame content with an endgame team. Because just by using... Let's just say I use an Invocation Blessing. That's going to give me 400 and something of something. Then this will increase your critical strike by about 0.9% and give you an additional 10% crit severity. Then a Potion of Power for another 1,000. Then a Watermelon Sorbet for another 10% of your power, which in my case is almost 4,200. Just by using these 4 foods right here, I can gain about, at max, 5,600 power and an additional 0.9% critical strike and 10% critical severity, not including what I will get from my Chain of Scales. So that is the reason why you should use potions and foods in Neverwinter. Because having like an additional 5,400, 5,200 of any stat is a lot. I mean, you don't have to use power like I do. You can use defense, getting another like 5,200 defense on average. Gaining another 5,200 recovery on average. That's huge. An additional 5,200 critical strike. And then, if you hit the critical strike, or the critical severity from the Chain of Scales, and you're using the Superior Potion the Superior Flask of Potency, you can get 7.5% critical severity from the Chain of Scales. You can get 7.5% critical severity by the Flasks of Potency. And then you can get an additional 10% critical severity from the Wildstorm Elixir. Just by using those 3 things, you just increased your crit severity by 25%. At endgame, at like close to 100 or 100% critical chance builds, that is huge. That's a lot of extra damage. So yes, it is very important to utilize foods, potions, and elixirs in Neverwinter, but at the same time, like I outlined in this video, you gotta find the ones that work for you, and how much are you willing to spend. Me, I'm not willing to spend that much, but I like to get the little extra. Just by using these Wildstorm Elixirs are free, more or less. These are only 100 Astral Diamonds each. A Watermelon Sorbet is only around 200 Astral Diamonds each, and a Squash Soup is like 150 Astral Diamonds each. So for me, by using these 4 things, it doesn't really cost me anything. 400 or 500 Astral Diamonds, like every dungeon run, it's nothing. And it increases it a lot. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video and hopefully you learned something. If you did enjoy it, man, go ahead and hit that thumbs up like. And leave a comment down below and let me know what foods you like to use the most, or do you use them, or have you never used them and I just educated you more or less. Also, make sure you guys tell your friends about me, man, so they can subscribe to my channel, they can view my videos, and then they can like my videos, and then you can help a brother out. So anyway, man, I hope you guys did enjoy this YouTube video. I'm about to get out of here and go do something. So until the next time, YouTube, this is the Assist Man, and I am out.